we go. Perfect. Outstanding. Okay, so thank you everyone for hopping on. I know some folks are still kind of trickling in here, but we're going to go ahead and get right underway. First of all, thank you for taking time out of your afternoon to come and join us at the first official ModernLoop webinar that we're going to be hosting. Our partners here over at Brex were kindly enough to partner with us on this, on the topic that we're going to be going over, which, as you can see on screen, is going to be structuring a recruiting operations team for optimal performance. Before we get underway, a couple of housekeeping items. We do have a couple of my colleagues here at ModernLoop who are fielding Q&A. There will be a section towards the end of the webinar that we will handle and answer some of those with the co-panelists here. Additionally, for any of the folks on or who have registered, such as your colleagues who couldn't make it, session is being recorded and we will follow up with the recording afterwards. So again, feel free, toss in your questions. We start to go, we will handle those at the end, and we'll make sure to wrap up the recording to all of the attendees before we finish the week. Alrighty, cool. So very top of mind here, right? We were gracious enough to have two spectacular team members over at the Brex team partner with us on this to speak a little bit about their process and some of the learnings that they have had. My name is JD Harper. I'm a senior customer success manager here at ModernLoop. I'll be the moderator of today, going through a couple of the questions with our partners. I've worked in CS for about 8 years, and I've been here at ModernLoop for about 1.5 years at this point. Over to Karen. Karen is a 6th year in her progress in recruiting ops. She works over at Brex and has a BS in marketing from the University of San Francisco. Thank you, Karen. Anything else you'd like to say about your background, how you got here?
Yeah, prior to recruiting, I was a college advisor, actually. So was a college advisor and then made my way into recruiting. Started off as a recruiting coordinator, did some recruiting and realized it wasn't for me, but really enjoyed supporting our team. So found my way into recruiting ops. I've been at Brex for a little over 2 years now, and I support a variety of recruiting projects, like from cooperations to enablement and some of our programs as well. I work closely with our recruiters and our sourcers, as well as our cross-functional partners like legal, HR, as well as our vendors to optimize our systems, processes, and tools to build more scalable solutions and enable hiring at Brex. So glad to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for being here. Really appreciate your partnership and bringing all that expertise to the table here. Also joining us from the Brex side is going to be Lauren Birch. She's actually my main point of contact when I get to work with Brex. So get to be in the trenches with Lauren pretty often. She has a BS in Health and Science from Chapman University and a good amount of experience in the recruiting and coordination space. Lauren, would you like to tell a little bit about your progress?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I guess kind of a similar path to Karen. I started out working also at a university. So I was working in university admissions for a couple years out of school, and then decided to transition into a bit more fast-paced environment and switch over to tech. So I actually joined Brex as a recruiting coordinator, and now I'm the team lead. So I lead a team of 3 recruiting coordinators, and yes, work very closely with JD. So I definitely have a lot of experience on the scheduling, coordination side of things, and now get to help run the team.
Love it. We appreciate you guys both for being here. Stoked to do this with y'all. Alrighty, so we'll get right into it. Kind of looking at our first topic here, optimizing talent acquisition, exploring your guys' RC to recruiter ratios, the amount of recs that a single RC recruiter are working with, and if there's any role specialization with that. So the very first question I have for you guys here is, like, what is your current RC and recruiter ratios looking like over at Brex?
Yeah, I can take this one. It'll definitely change depending on the time of the year, the number of RCs that we have, but I'd say on average, we usually have about 6 to 7 combination of recruiters and sourcers aligned to each of our RCs, we'll usually have a few members of the recruiting team that actually aren't aligned to any RC. Those are the people that maybe lead the recruiting team or manage. And so they're not submitting as many interview requests on a regular basis. So out of the people that do get aligned, about 6 to 7 per RC.
Awesome. Yeah, pretty good split there. So for your RCs, looking at those, 5 to 6 recruiter sources that they partner with, about how many recs would you say an RC is touching on within probably a quarter?
Yeah. So I don't have an exact answer for this one. We actually don't split it up by number of recs. A majority of the recs that we have or roles that we have at Brex are pipeline roles. So they're just open pretty much continuously. And we have a lot of recruiters who may work on that same role. So typically what I'm doing or how I'm deciding which recruiters or how many recruiters are aligned with each recruiting coordinator has to do more with the amount of interview requests that they're submitting. So I'll typically look back at the previous quarter or month by month, and I'll narrow down, okay, we're going to have some recruiters and sourcers who submit a ton of requests just based on the roles that they're working on, and others that maybe have more specialized niche roles that they're working on. So they just end up submitting fewer requests. So we try to balance that out to get an even spread across all of the RCs. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a specific answer for recs per RC, but yeah, looking more at the load per recruiter sourcer and then evening that out with our RCs.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So it sounds like then you guys are pretty well functional across the org with no real specialization, more so just making sure that everyone has equal load and that obviously your recruiters and sourcers are getting the support they need, it sounds like. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's about right. There are a few things that I'll look at when I'm trying to come up with a new alignment. We like to switch up the alignment of our RCs, recruiters, and sourcers. I'd say once a quarter is about when we switch it up. It usually has to do with maybe we have a new RC join, they go through their training, and it's time to align them with new recruiters. I think it's fun to mix it up because each of our RCs gets to work with certain people really closely, and then when we switch it up, they get to make those connections with different recruiters and sourcers on the team. So what I'm looking at, yes, one is the number of requests for interview scheduling that everyone submits. The other thing that I'm looking at is we don't have business coordinators, tech coordinators. We don't divide it that way. We have everyone do a little bit of everything. So each coordinator is going to have some recruiters on the biz side, some more on the tech side. So I try to split it up that way. Another thing I look at is time zones. We have people spread out all across the US, Canada, Brazil, Israel right now. So we're also trying to figure out, okay, if someone's closer to the East Coast, we're going to align them with our coordinators that are closer to that time zone. West Coast recruiters, RCs, so that they're likely to be online at the same time. So yeah, those are a few things that we're looking at. And then I'd say the last thing I'll mention is we have some recruiters that do schedule for those more niche, high touch roles, maybe our exec candidates. And we typically reserve those that are a little bit more difficult to schedule for more senior RCs. So also kind of dividing it up by the difficulty to coordinate for those candidates.
Got it. Very cool. No, that's super helpful. I think it's very telling that you look at the complexity of a certain role and then try to make sure that you have the best people in place that maybe have the most knowledge about your internal workflows so that you can provide a really great candidate experience there. One thing just to kind of piggyback on here before we move to topic 2 there is I know you don't have necessarily a defined number for RC recs. Do you have maybe a defined number for the recruiters and the recs that they facilitate?
I don't know if Karen, you have any info on recs per recruiter or sourcer. I don't think I have those. I have more the coordination side of things, but yeah, I'm not 100% sure on recruiter sourcer numbers.
No, that's totally good. That one came in from the chat, and I was just curious. Maybe we sync that one in there.
Yeah, right now it actually really varies. It varies depending on like the focus of roles that we're hiring for. We're focusing a lot on growth roles like sales, marketing, some of our GTM roles. And so those are going to be a lot more versus like some of our engineering roles right now, but it always varies. There, if you had asked us last year, it would have been more on the tech side versus the biz side.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, no, super helpful. I mean, I think seeing a couple questions in here, it's kind of right in line. People are trying to see the makeup of the team to the overall size of the company, how many roles are open. So appreciate that. Cruising into topic 2 here. So kind of mastering your guys' recruiting operations, leveraging the right technology stack to kind of implement and maximize your guys' performance. So very first thing here, right? Like looking at the tools you use, what does your tech stack look like? And how are you guys leveraging those today?
Yeah, I can speak to the coordination side of the tools that we use, and then I'll hand it over to Karen to speak about more of the ops and recruiter side of things. As far as coordination goes, obviously we use ModernLoop. Love ModernLoop. We've been using them for a little while now. We also use Monday.com. That's a bit more recent. I think we've been using it for about a year now, and we use that to manage our entire queue of requests. So our recruiters and sourcers submit almost like a form that they fill out through Monday, and then it pops up into our queue. It gives us a lot of metrics on requests. So yeah, ModernLoop, Monday.com, and then a bunch of other ones that really work closely with us using ModernLoop. So things like Code Signal, Zoom, Slack, the whole Google suite of tools. That's yeah, what we're using on the coordination side.
Nice, thank
Yeah.
you.
And for the recruiting side, our ETS is Greenhouse. We've been using them for a while now. And we've layered a few other tech stacks or tools that work well with Greenhouse as well. So we use Gem for nurturing prospects and reviewing our pipeline analytics. LinkedIn, obviously, for sourcing. We also use Seek Out for diversity sourcing. And we actually brought on a new tool recently, MetaView, and we use that for transcribing and reporting our interviews. So by utilizing all these tools, it just allows us to streamline our recruitment process, improve our candidate sourcing, improve our candidate experience as well, and ultimately make more informed hiring decisions.
Nice, love that. So you guys sound like you're leveraging a handful of different tools there. Karen, looking at some of those around the sourcing aspect, how have you seen some of those tools impact your guys' process? Were some of those outcomes expected? Were some things maybe unexpected that came up you weren't quite aware of?
Yeah, so in terms of, again, with our tools, we've been using them for a while now, especially Seek Out and Gem. They've been here since before I even started at Brex. And Gem has really helped with our recruiters and sourcers organize candidates into different projects and make it really efficient for them to build their pipeline quickly. We can track candidates with the talent pipeline feature. We just make sure that no one falls through the cracks, especially now, given the environment that we're in. There's a surplus of people looking for jobs. And so we're actively using Gem to ensure that, like, hey, have we reviewed this person before? Have we reached out to them before? Is this a good time to reconnect? As well as, again, outreaches. So like the automated sequences save times. It's also great for us to see our outreach metrics as well to strategize on what's working well and what's not. And Gem makes it really easy for our recruiters and sourcers to partner with their hiring managers too on some of these projects. So I think in terms of Gem has done a great number of things for us, expected, but also like unexpectedly too. And we've leveraged a lot on our partnership with Gem. I meet with our customer support manager frequently to either have post trainings on new product features that they've launched, or for her to also understand what our hiring goals are, and so she can help us kind of focus more on certain features that we may have overlooked in the past.
Got it. Yeah, no, super helpful. I know a lot of the attendees here use similar tech stacks, right? So leaning out on some of those learnings, I think is really important. So shifting over back to the coordination side, speaking to some of the tools you have out there, maybe more recently the tool, Lauren, that you guys just implemented. Similar question, right? Like, how have you seen those tools impact your process? And were some of those desired outcomes expected, or any curveballs coming at you?
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, the two main tools we're using are ModernLoop and Monday. I'd say with ModernLoop, we've been with you guys, I feel like, since very close to the beginning. So it's been exciting to I feel like a lot of it in a sense has been unexpected, because I remember very early days joining, and I feel like the tool has evolved so much that I think we didn't really know what it was going to become. So I think especially, like, of course it helps us with scheduling, it speeds up our interview scheduling tremendously, but I think interview training is the big thing that maybe was a little bit more unexpected, and a very happy surprise for us, is to get through, to get our especially engineering side of trainees through training so quickly, and like the tracking process has just, yeah, made things a lot easier. So ModernLoop, really fun to, yeah, see it progress. And then with monday.com, yeah, again, we're using it for our queue. I'd say the unexpected thing with Monday is more the metric side of things. It's more of a project or task management tool, and we've completely built it out, customized it to what we need. And really every column within our queue, we can look at metrics for. So I think that's been the most helpful or unexpected, is we didn't really look too closely at using it for metrics. We really just needed something to create a queue for. And so being able to look at, yeah, requests per recruiter, how many requests are each of the coordinators scheduling? We're tracking recruiter errors, we're tracking reschedule reasons. Like, we've been able to get really deep into these different little metrics, and I think that's been more of the unexpected outcome.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's super good to hear. I'm always curious about different tech. And yeah, you guys have been on our platform for quite some time, so you've seen it come from the infancies and until what most of our folks have today, which has really been exciting. Obviously, thank you for your partnership and the constant feedback that you guys continue to give us. Stellar. Cruising over to our third topic here, right? So we talked a little bit about the tech stack you're using. So now moving into unlocking success. Now that we have these tools, we're starting to get metrics, right? What are some of those performance metrics we're looking at explicitly, such as time to hire, or really what is considered a good track of how your team's performing? What are you guys looking at there?
Yeah, I can jump in on this one. I can speak a little bit more to time to schedule. I feel like that's where we've seen the biggest impact when switching tools, or seeing tools improve that we're using. I think, yeah, again, the biggest thing that's impacted is time to schedule. ModernLoop, especially the algorithm that helps us find schedules for different interviews, versus previously we were scheduling very manually through Greenhouse. We basically cut time to schedule in half, I would say, for most interviews. So as long as the candidate's availability works with the interviewer's availability, everything goes very smoothly. I always take metrics with a grain of salt with coordination, because if I'm looking at time to schedule for all of these different interviews or by coordinator, I, being a coordinator myself in a previous life, understand that if it takes longer to schedule, it's because that availability with the candidate and the interviewer isn't working out. Maybe the interviewer's out of office, maybe their time zones don't match up. So that's really what's, taking longer. And so again, if everything works out, it's very quick to schedule. Time to hire, we have looked at this as far as, yeah, as tools have changed. And honestly, I feel like time to hire hasn't changed all too much with changing the tech stack. I feel like there's so many outside factors that impact time to hire. It's not just how quickly we can schedule an interview. Maybe it impacts it by a day or two, but I think we've always been constantly reevaluating the tools that we're using, the tech that we're using. And I feel like we've been on track using really great tools for a while. And so for that reason, I feel like we haven't seen huge changes in our time to hire necessarily.
Got it. Okay, yeah. That was super helpful. Karen, over to you for the recruitment side. What are some key metrics you're looking at when you're kind of prepping the team and some of the things there? Would love to know a little bit more.
Yeah. So some of the work that I'm responsible for on a monthly and quarterly cadence is just like I send out like a newsletter in terms of like our hiring, like our monthly hiring rates and like how many candidates were in each stage. I also loop Lauren in terms of the scheduling metrics to see how many schedules are done. And I also have like project updates as well. In terms of quarterly, we always have our QBR. So I'm like pulling the acceptance rate, our hiring rates as well, like decline reasons. Why was there more candidates that are rejecting us, maybe potentially for like compensation, or is it location, other things. And as now as we've expanded into other countries like Brazil and Mexico, Canada, we are also looking at our data more in a detailed view of just like, okay, what is our acceptance rate by country? What is our pass-through rate by country? And so a lot of the metrics that we're pulling have gotten more and more detailed in terms of like the places that we're hiring in. But I guess in terms of like some of the metrics that we want to see, as we continue to grow internationally, a metric that we want to dig more into are like international hiring metrics, like global talent pipeline, time to fill. Global diversity is really important, especially because diversity in the US is not the same as diversity in another country. And so like, what does that mean for us? What does inclusion metrics mean in a different country? And as we like review all of this information, it just helps us assess our international hiring strategies, identify areas of improvement, and make more data-driven decisions as well. We noticed that like if candidates aren't the same caliber and they're like not passing a certain stage, we want to reevaluate our interview plan then and there versus like realizing, I don't know, like maybe it takes much longer and then we're evaluating the interview plan. We're always having those conversations to see where we can improve and adjust our plans and needs to then be able to like see the candidates that we want to see in our hiring plan. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think it's imperative now as people and companies start to get more global that you take in those things in consideration. It's awesome that's in the forefront of your mind there. So we just went over a handful of tools and Karen just spoke a little bit about things that they want to start capturing. Lauren, over for you from the coordination side, are there any metrics or tools that you wish you had? Maybe things that you were like, oh, I wish I had this, that would really help us fine tune the team. And if so, what are those?
Yeah, I know. I thought about this. I feel like the coordination team right now, I feel like we're in a really good spot. I feel like if anything, what we're needing to do is just fine tune where I said, availability matching up, I feel like is the biggest thing that slows us down, but I don't know necessarily if there's a tool that is going to help us with that. I feel like it's more just coaching our recruiters and sourcers to kind of go into the mindset of an RC and look at calendars and connect that with candidate availability. I think will help speed us up. Again, Monday.com is giving us a lot of great metrics. I feel like ModernLoop is really helping us with training. I think, putting more focus on candidates is also what we're thinking about. So many people are recruiting in this remote world now. And, we used to be able to give candidates a snack bag when they showed up for their interview. And, we can't do that anymore. So I think something to kind of sweeten the candidate experiences is what's in mind for us next. That's really, I think, what we're looking for. I feel like we've nailed down the coordination, the scheduling side of things. Now it's how do we stand out in the crowd, basically.
Got it. Yeah, nice. I mean, I think now more than ever, it's also something that we recently worked on was how do we enhance that candidate experience for all the things you mentioned, right? You used to have the shock and awe of coming into the office and, you know, getting those warm faces, and now it's a little less personal. So how do we continue to still have that presence? So really cool. Alrighty, as we cruise over, we had a handful of folks coming through in the chat. So just want to thank you guys for staying active and kind of, you know, readily available questions. We'll hit the crew here with some kind of the first thing here. How do you, Lauren, measure your RC efficiency?
Good question. I'll go back to looking at that time to schedule. I feel like coordination metrics are a little tough because of all the different things that impact efficiency. So I do every week look at the team's average time to complete all the requests that came in, and I can see it broken down by each coordinator as well. So if I notice someone like looks like it's way higher than the rest of the team, that's something that I'll pay attention to. But I think the bigger thing for me, or when I'm thinking about how well the coordinators are performing, a lot of it is more just feedback from recruiters and sourcers that they work with. It's a little bit more subjective in that sense. I feel like metrics wise, it is, again, a little tough to look at that and think, oh, it took them longer to schedule, that means that they're less efficient. I think, again, a lot of it has to do with just the availability not matching up. So we are always trying to bring it down, finding ways to, you know, have our recruiters be more mindful of availability, or find different tips and tricks to make it easier to schedule with our interviewers. But yeah, metrics wise, it's a little up in the air in that sense.
Gotcha. And I know you guys run a pretty lean team. Another question came in is how do you decide, or how do you know when it's time to add an additional recruiting coordinator to your team? How does that look?
Yeah, I'd say there are a couple circumstances. One is obviously if someone is leaving the team. We kind of look at our coordination team, or the RC role specifically, is like a stepping stone to whatever their next role is at Brex. So we have coordinators go on to join HR, to become recruiters or sourcers. We had a coordinator join the sales team. So people kind of hop all over after their time as an RC. So as soon as we know that someone's getting close to that time to leave, we're obviously looking for someone to take their spot. When that isn't happening and we feel like we need a new coordinator, I'd say that's when I am meeting one-on-one with each of our coordinators, and they're expressing that pretty much their entire day is spent scheduling or rescheduling, just anything that has to do with that role of a coordinator. We don't want our coordinators to be doing that all day. We want them to have some time for projects on the side, for brainstorming, for helping our ops team or recruiting team with side projects. That kind of makes the role, I think, a little bit more fun when you get to work on different things across the recruiting team. So if I'm hearing that, you know, their whole day is spent in the queue, scheduling, rescheduling, that is a big red flag to me that we have too many requests coming in for each coordinator. I also do track each week how many requests is each coordinator completing per week. So I can also keep an eye on, like, okay, it's doubled since a month ago, you know, and it's been consistently high for X period of time. That's what I'm looking at as well. And that will tell me, you know, we probably need an additional team member, and then pulling in headcount to that. You know, if we see headcount is going to be going up, or if we're hiring recruiters and sourcers, we're going to need more coordinators to align them with. So number of different things there, but metrics definitely help a lot.
For sure. Nice. I got one more question. I know we're running close on time, so just one last one from the attendees here. Karen, over for you. I know you had a handful of software, as you mentioned, that were kind of already stood up at the time that you joined. But how is it that you are evaluating tools to supplement your process? Did you guys maybe look for company growth, or you're looking to kind of satisfy a specific need that you guys have?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of what you mentioned. Like it is definitely, what's the budget, but also reevaluating our tools to see like if they are meeting a need and if our recruiters or our team is satisfied with it. So we send out a survey to our team. Hey, are you liking this tool? Like has it been helping you improve on? Like it's in terms of like your process or whatever, but then also like what don't you like? And then that's how we kind of evaluate whether or not we want to renew or not. Or also we try to get very creative with like the tools that we have. And so if there's a tool that we currently have that we can kind of like work with, we will do that as well. But it is definitely a team effort in terms of like, there's some of these tools, like I'm not sourcing candidates, so I have to be able to lean on my sources to give me feedback on like how that tool is working for them, as well as like some of our recruiting managers who are also very much so in the tools as well. But we have like a complete doc of like, okay, what has been working, what has not been working, what are we, if there was a way to replace this tool, what are we looking for? Like, what is the ideal tool? And we're always very much so demoing new tools just to like understand like what's out there and understand like how it can kind of fit with our recruiting process as well as make it better. So yeah, definitely team effort to understand where like our pitfalls and where we can improve.
Got it. Yeah, awesome. Perfect. That's really all we're gonna dig into in terms of Q&A. Really just want to say thank you, first of all, both Karen, you and Lauren, for partnering with on this. I think it was absolutely incredible to just share the knowledge you guys have built up. Also want to thank all of the attendees again for taking the time out of your guys' afternoon to come join us. Some really good questions. We have a handful of those, depending on how quickly we can get through some of these. May follow up with you guys one-off. Just to kind of close the loop on a handful of other things, we will be sending out the recording to all attendees. So if any of your colleagues were unable to make it, they will be getting the recording. And just a nice little plug, we are going to try to do these webinars a little more consistently. We're looking to actually partner with another one of our customers, Zero Cater, coming up December 13th, right at the same time. So 1 p.m. PST. And the topic for that one is going to be focused a lot more on preventing recruiter and recruiting coordinator burnout for a lean team. So that's something you guys are interested in. When we do send the wrap up, we'll have a nice little registration link to be at the bottom of those. So thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your guys' time this afternoon. Hopefully you guys got some good info out of this. I know I did. But again, thank you to our partners. Thank you to you guys over at Brex, and everyone have a great rest of your day.